about you on this?
No,
Okay.
this is your
So we're
tool
just watching.
to use
Okay.
with your, so like the idea is hopefully Jen's gonna take some notes for me, and then I get to take that away so I remember what my goal is. Does that make sense?
We haven't practiced this, so we'll see.
We have not rehearsed. I just was like, Jen, can you do this for me?
Sure.
How do you feel about that? Use this, go. So thanks, Jen.
Good morning, how are you?
All right, go for it.
So let's talk a little bit about how you're thinking about how you might want to grow this year.
So, I think what was most helpful to me is using this rubric thing.
Okay.
And there's a whole section in there about strategic design and how I partner with coaches. Because I feel like that's an area where I could grow.
Talk to me just a little more about that. What does that mean to you when you say strategic design?
So when I look at this, I'm totally telling you the wrong thing. It's the coach conversation. It's
Okay.
like, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Sorry, it's about the coaching conversation. So it's really about like what my coaching conversations look like in the moment with individual coaches.
Okay.
Because there's other parts of my work where I feel like I feel pretty competent and I feel like I do a lot of good self-learning and growth, but that's one where sometimes have felt like it's been really flat.
So are these two things connected, strategic design
No.
and these coaching conversations? Or are we
Forget I
talking about
said strategic design.
I'm just gonna cross
I was
this out.
reading the wrong part of the rubric.
Okay, because I was like, designing in advance for
Right.
spontaneous conversations is good practice, so I was with you on that,
Totally.
but, all right.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about if you have those in the moment conversations. How do you think that those kinds of conversations will make a difference in the lives of your coaches?
Well, so I don't think that they are currently necessarily. I think it's kind of spotty, and I would like to make that more consistent. And what I'm thinking about is that things like I've had a couple conversations this year where before I left the meeting or the room, the coach said, "Oh, that really helped my thinking. I know what I'm going to do now." And so I would like for that, honestly, to be like, that's my goal, is for every time I go out and meet with a coach and have a coaching conversation, like they sort of spontaneously, like there's a statement of like, "Oh, that really helped my thinking. I know what I'm going to do now." Something that communicates that kind of thing, rather than like, "Oh, thanks for meeting with me. It was good to get some clarification." Because I feel like we're sort of at that, like if I were to really generalize my current reality, it would be, I can't remember the words, but there's like some words for that compliance where it's just like people are happy to comply, but there's not a whole lot of deep. I mean, that's just me generalizing. I don't mean to insult you.
So are you saying the consistency part is important to your practice?
Well, yes, because I think that if we can go deeper, and if my coaching of coaches deepens their thinking and helps them understand what to do next, then I'm doing my job. I think without that, I'm not really being as effective as I could be.
So you feel like if you're being consistent, you'll elicit the responses that will help it feel like it's effective for
Yes.
them and for you.
Yes,
Okay.
because really it's about them
Okay.
and their outcomes.
And so do you want those to be specific, like this specific thing that you said to me was helpful, or just like this time was helpful?
That's a good question. I think maybe that's something I could ask. Like that's a way I could get more information and like sort of that adapt part and like continue to improve my practice is sort of say like, well, what parts were helpful?
Okay.
Because then that can help me, like that could be a strategy that I would use.
Like a strategy to use then as you apply to other meetings that you have? Okay. So you're thinking that, just to make sure I understand, if you meet with a coach and they say, these are some specific things that really help me in this conversation, that you might replicate that because coaches in general have similar issues that they may be grappling with, or things that they want to do in their buildings.
Yes. And a lot of times if I were to identify when I've had success now and think about it now, it's often when I am truly coaching and not consulting or collaborating.
Okay.
And so that's really what I'm trying to really focus more on truly being a coach of coaches rather than a coordinator of them in in this specific, like in these like specific circumstances. Because I think that's,
So you're happy if it feels more like we're coaching together, not you're coaching, like you're coordinating their coaching of other people,
Right.
but you're coaching together.
right. Like I'm their, like what do they call it in cognitive coaching? Like their thought partner.
Right. The thought partner. That is what they call it.
Yeah.
So do you think that matters to them? As far as
Like whether or not that's important?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Because in the times when it has been successful, the couple times where it has been successful, I can see it. It's like that Better Conversations thing of like it's life-giving. Like I can see like, oh, like shoulders drop, like there's a body, like I can see that it makes a difference. So there's that level, just on like that human level, and there's also, I think that it's really important for all of us coaches to be engaged in actual coaching, because we do a lot of like talking about this word and like throwing it out there all the time, and I want to make sure that we're all like, it's just another way of building that shared mental model and make sure that we all know like, hey, here's what this looks like, here's what it feels like.
So do I hear you saying that the consulting part is maybe more of what people do, even though they call it coaching, and you want to model that really coaching is that thought partner piece?
Oh, and I don't know about everybody else, but I know for me, oftentimes that is the case, is that I do more consulting than coaching, and that's like not walking the walk.
Yeah. Okay. How will you know that you've been successful? Will it be that like when they have that like this was the thing, or what's your sort of measure for how if you've done it well?
I think it would probably be a little bit more like this was the thing.
Okay.
And if I were to try and track that, I could just, a lot of times after I meet with coaches, I'll go sit in my car for 2 minutes and take some notes, or I'll even audio record the conversation and listen to it again.
Okay.
So I could either take notes and know if that was part of the conversation, or listen to it again and see if that was part of the conversation.
So first you'd have like so they would say, oh, this, and then second you'd have like a chance to review and look for.
Yeah. There's something maybe I would like your consultation about, like what you think, because I know in cognitive coaching they told us that you should ask that directly at the end of every conversation, but that feels really weird to me, because it feels like I'm not always gonna get an honest answer.
So
like if I was like, so how was this conversation helpful? People are gonna tell me how it's helpful, whether or not.
Whether it's helpful or not. Okay, that makes sense.
And I am kind of cheating because they're all sitting here listening to me
Yeah.
say this.
Right. So it feels you're saying it feels kind of contrived, like you're
If I ask it
asking
specifically
for a response that you're going to elicit by the way you ask the question.
That's right. I mean, because like think about it, even for this conversation at the end, if you're like, so Hilary, how was this conversation helpful? Obviously, I'm going to find something that was helpful in it.
Because you're going to want to make me feel less itchy.
That's right.
Which is a quality probably coaches share.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think I'll probably just look for it more anecdotally than solid data.
Okay. Do you think that having a goal like this that for you will make a difference for teachers and students because of this, of how you're setting it up? Or how do you think it will? Like if your coaches are your students, I can see how your goals are good for them.
Right.
And then taking it one step.
Yes. So my hope is that it has like kind of a twofold positive impact, in that coaches can learn more about coaching from our interactions, either from things that they want to replicate or things that they know they don't want to do.
Okay.
Because I can be a model, an example or non-example for them. So that there's that piece, and then there's also just the piece of if I'm mediating their thinking, then their coaching practices will improve, and then and then that will also help teachers, which will help students. So
Okay.
there's some trickle down.
Yeah, so in your
Stuff.
mind, you're hoping that it will
Yes.
have an effect.
Yeah.
So let's circle back around to the beginning and think about, and again, like, can you restate your goal? How would you state it?
That's a good one. This is the part that always feels really messy, like trying to make
So
it
now you've
sound
said
like,
these things, I wonder.
this is why it's helpful to record it, because I can go back and be like, what did I say? So it's like that my coaching of coaches, which sounds absurd, is effective in that it elicits some spontaneous, like, oh, that helped my thinking, and I know what I'm going to do next.
your
So,
coaching practices elicit responses that help coaches think about their own practice.
Yeah, and so I think maybe for me, I just need to attend to the multiple ways that that could be expressed. Because it could be like, I had that one thing, but they could say it in other ways. But just knowing that coaching conversations I'm having actually feel and work like coaching. I mean, so maybe that's
Not consulting, but coaching.
but coaching, and maybe that's a little general, but I feel okay with that because I kind of know what that means.
Okay.
And I think sometimes I know I get hung up on the wording, and the wording is not the important part. It's about like, do I know what it means? And I think I know what that means.
So not just the wording, but like the action behind it.
Yeah, I know what the action is, and I know how I'm going to look for it.
Okay.
So then,
Do you want to talk a little bit about?
good job.
Do
Way
you
to
wanna
make
talk
that not feel so like.
Yeah, do you want to talk a
scripted.
little bit about what you're already bringing? Because I hear you saying you've had these prior experiences actually, and that's what's developed the school. That this school has arrived for you sort of as a result of prior experiences. So do you want to talk about what you're already bringing to the table?
So I don't think this is necessarily a strength, but I think something that will really help me is to record conversations so I can listen to them again, because I think that has been the most helpful thing in trying to improve my practice, is being able, like I think about, like a lot of times if I audio record it, especially with Vanessa at Timnath, because then I can listen to the recording on the way back to the office right afterwards, and that is just, it's really helpful for me for that processing part. So there's that. The attending cognitive coaching has been really helpful. So I think that there's like, that's been interesting because I think those are a lot of things that I have in my toolbox. I just needed to like dust them off.
Mm-hmm.
So there's those two. Another one, what else am I bringing to it?
I think the rubric is helpful at all.
This actually, yes, thank you. There's a lot in here that would be really helpful that I could see myself just reading through those different prompts before I have, like if I know I have a meeting set up, to read through that section and think about how I might use that, I think would be really helpful.
So you could bring that in terms of.
Yeah, because I think what happens is a lot of times I'm going from place to place to place, or I have all these things going on and I'm not really grounded when I enter the conversation, and so then I leave and I'm like, oh, well, that was great. We just chatted about whatever, and I didn't think about actually coaching.
Like being very like specific in your.
Right.
And when you say it's helpful for processing when you record it, helpful in what way?
I can hear what I did that worked.
Okay.
And I can also hear what I did that didn't work.
Okay.
But I try, because it's so easy to focus on what didn't work and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so annoying. Like, how can they even deal with me? Then I try, so I have to try and think like, okay, well, what were the questions I asked that worked? What, like, how did I pause? Trying to identify those things so I can replicate them.
So maybe going into it, you could think about some specific look-fors so that you would be able to be consistent in your look-fors.
And maybe they could also be aligned with what's in the rubric.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have some next steps, it sounds
Yes.
like, in terms of sort of organizing it or making it like a concise practice.
Yes.
And I'll look forward to hearing more about how your first one goes.
Awesome.
I can't wait to hear more about that.
All right.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
And
Good job, Jen.
and